Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I am Reverend MeeLing, also known as Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, quite a few other names that I've been known by. So I'm passing through Santa Ana. And so I figured, why not talk about my biological mother on my Medal of Honor art project trip, right? So my biological mother, Anna Louise Lally, is her maiden last name. Hom is her married last name. So she had hated me, like, ever since I was conceived. She absolutely hated me. And so as soon as she found out that she was pregnant with me, she had actually tried to get multiple attempts through abortion. And back in the 80s, you know, it wasn't as sophisticated in certain regards as it is in more modern era sort of thing. And so when, like, I just, as her words, as in my biological mother, her words were, you know, if could just die, you know, then, you know, it would make her life so much easier. Well, obviously I didn't die. Obviously, not only her attempts as far as abortion, but also, you know, trying to get herself to have a miscarriage while pregnant with me repeatedly. It annoyed her. So after I was born, she would, and I'm sure that there have been those since, ever since my birth, she had made fun of the fact that I would scream and cry as an infant because she wouldn't change my diaper as an infant, and because she would allow it to get so bad. I have sensitive skin, eczema, and dry skin. So, and that was even as an infant. And so her thing was, she thought it was funny that I, as an infant, would cry because, you know, it felt like battery acid on my skin. And so she thought it was funny. I'm sure that there have been plenty of people she's actually told that to over the years, not just, you know, me. And so she had always been embarrassed of me. She had been embarrassed because I didn't look Asian. I'm half Chinese, but I don't actually look it. And so, unlike my biological sister, Patricia Ann Hom Miller, I don't look Asian. And because my great-grandfather, specifically my Bakgung is the name, and my Bakpu, which is great-grandmother, she, as in my biological mother, could not stand the fact that he actually was proud of me. And my biological mother would try repeatedly to push my biological sister forward, like, look, she actually looks Chinese, and compared to, you know, Susan, me. And so my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother on my biological father's side were extremely insulted by my biological mother in a multitude of ways. First and foremost, the fact that she treated me the way she did, it absolutely infuriated my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother, my Bakpu, she just was absolutely appalled by my biological mother. And so my Bakgung was not as offended. I mean, he was offended, but not as offended until my biological sister was born. Because my biological sister actually looks Asian. She was actually born on our great-grandfather's birthday, the 7th of October. However, problem being that my biological sister was not given the name that my Bakpu had, and my Bakgung in turn had picked out for Patricia. So Patricia Ann Hom Miller is, you know, her name. And my middle name, MeeLing, is actually Cantonese. And so my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, after my biological sister was born, she, like, infuriated. Like, anytime Anna, my biological mother, would go up to New York, it would absolutely infuriate my great-grandmother, because every time she would see Patricia, my biological sister, she would be just constantly reminded of the fact that Anna, my biological mother, refused to acknowledge the Asian culture in that regard. And so, while my great-grandfather, you know, tolerated Anna, oh, my great-grandmother did not. Those who have in-laws from other countries understand what I mean when I say, you know, the aspects of the old world way of showing how much disdain my great-grandmother had for my biological mother. I mean, just pure hatred. I've seen individuals who have experienced certain things, and my great-grandmother refused to speak English in front of Anna. She was fluent in English. She just absolutely refused to speak it in front of my biological mother. And then when my great-grandfather, or my Buckung, and my great-grandmother, my Bukpu, found out that my biological mother had made the choice not to allow me to go to Chinese school when growing up in New Jersey, that was the final nail in my biological mother's coffin. She, like, my great-grandmother, through every possible aspect to curse my biological sister and biological mother simply for those, and it's not really simply, it's just those few things which those who have those ties understand that sort of aspect. So my biological mother had no idea to the level that my great-grandmother absolutely hated her. And the first time that my biological mother should have known that my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather absolutely hated her was when they had gone to a 12-course traditional Chinese banquet. And so those who have been to similar sort of things, you understand how that goes. And there are multiple cultures that do that, but for a Cantonese 12-course banquet, there is a different level in regards to the traditions in that regard. So my biological mother had gotten a plate, and it was because my great-grandmother, my Bukpu, had actually specifically ordered Anna's plate and had no idea, like Anna had no idea. So the maitre d' or the waiter or whatever it's called, he brings over Anna's specific plate. And, you know, everybody got their plate and that sort of thing. When the maitre d' opened the silver plate cover to reveal Anna's food, it had a pigeon head with a rosette in it. And nobody else at the banquet had that. Like, at all. Not in the way that it was done. I mean, there have been certain things that were done in a similar way, but it's a different setup in that regard. And so Anna freaks out because she sees a pigeon's head with a rosette in it. It wasn't a pheasant's head with that, which is a very different meal in that regard. And so it's a pigeon's head with a rosette in it. My buckgung and my buck poo look at Anna and have the biggest smiles on their faces. However, because my biological father wasn't raised in that specific manner, he didn't know what that actually meant at the time. So he ripped the head of the pigeon off of her plate, popped out the radish rosette, and started going like this with the pigeon head at my biological mother. My biological mother, freaking out and sort of stuff, which only made my buck poo, or my great-grandmother, laugh even harder, which to those who knew my buck poo in Chinatown in New York knew that she didn't laugh very often, and if she did laugh, it was usually in a purely sadistic manner because of being so highly offended. Otherwise, those who knew her, the only way she would laugh in a like non-sadistic manner was essentially when she was with very close family and friends, and that was it. She would keep a straight face when with just, you know, within the random public, but when in regards to close family and friends, then she would actually laugh, you know, if something was funny. And she could find humor in a lot of different things. However, when in the general public sort of way, it was constant just like a brick wall, just trying to get a brick wall to laugh. And so that was like a really big tell in that regard of how much my buck poo hated my biological mother. My biological mother did not pick up on that at all. And that was essentially her warning to my biological mother. And those who understand that particular aspect very much understand what that sort of warning was. And so my buckgung, or my great-grandfather, had said, you know, just, you know, redo the birth certificate as far as Patricia was concerned. My biological mother refused to. And so because she absolutely refused to, my buckgung and my buck poo completely cut Patricia out of the will. Just despite Anna and Patricia, because of all that stuff. And so when, like, I would go up to New York with them, and my biological mother and biological father would take my biological sister out, and, you know, these different areas and stuff like that, my buck poo, she wasn't playing around. She was not messing around at all. She actually would purposefully get like the most traditional Asian food as possible, just to freak Anna out. So like, for example, one night when up in New York, there were a bunch of really big shrimp. And, you know, my buckgung is cooking and stuff like that, and I see it. And I was like, what is wrong with the shrimp? Because I had never seen shrimp with eyeballs before. My buckgung and my buck poo explained it to me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Not just as in, like, that's how they actually are in the ocean when they come out and get cooked and stuff like that, but also the fact that it was to purposefully set Anna up for failure because they hated her that much. And then when my biological sister came into the kitchen at the condominium, because of the way it was set up, Patricia lost it. That's it, just like Anna did with the pigeon with the rosette in its mouth. And so while my biological mother has portrayed herself to be like in good graces in that regard, no. Everybody that knew my buckgung and my buck poo absolutely knew that Patricia was not to get anything at all. And that infuriated Anna when she found out. Years later, it was essentially after my great-grandfather died. Because when my great-grandfather, or my bakong, had passed away, it was a direct order that I was to be at the funeral. My biological mother allowed my biological sister to go to the funeral, but did not allow me to go because she knew that I was so close to my bakong. And that was her way of being spiteful to my bakpoo. And that was the final aspect when it came to Anna's last chance in regards to any possibility. And my bakpoo, who had survived my bakong, had pretty much let it be known across all of the businesses in Chinatown and throughout the 5 boroughs that Patricia and Anna were not welcome at any point in time. And so when we would go to Crown Palace in New Jersey, like, and you know, I was informed of this, you know, I would get, you know, special treats and stuff like that. Whereas Anna and my biological sister would get grossed out because of the traditional Asian stuff. And so Anna didn't realize that at the time, and then she was explained that. However, there are plenty of individuals, I would guesstimate at least by now, since today is the 8th of June 2020, I would guesstimate certain things have been figured out and found out in that regard. And so while Anna, my biological mother, had, you know, attempted to portray this like holier than thou thing, the amount of like skeletons in her closet were ridiculous. Like, for example, she tried to tell me, okay, anybody who's ever been to a college, I would guesstimate would be able to be like, no, that she was lying as far as my biological mother. But also take into account, my biological mother went to college in the late 1960s and early 1970s in New Jersey to Rutgers University, okay? I have to give you that preface, not that it realistically matters in certain regards which college, but it kind of does. But not because of the time frame. My biological mother tried to tell me not once at all, ever, did she ever smoke pot. Now, she went to college in New Jersey. Specifically, Rutgers University. And she was in the botany department. And she tried to tell me she didn't know anybody in the entire college campus of Rutgers University, not one person, who ever smoked pot. And when she told me that, I was like, you're lying to me. And she was like, no. Nobody in New Jersey in college in the late 1960s and early 1970s ever smoked pot. I don't believe you, Anna. And she was like, no, Susan, you don't understand. Like, there was nobody in Rutgers University at any campus that she went to at Rutgers University in the late 1960s, early 1970s that ever smoked pot. Nobody. And then she got mad at me because I wouldn't believe her. Because I had told her, I said, when going to grandma on my maternal grandmother's college graduation, where she was getting her theology degree to become like a full-fledged nun, that like at the graduation there were a bunch of guys that were talking to my biological mother's sister, which would be my Aunt Chris, her daughter, and they were smoking pot at a theology seminary college in New York, which, okay, New York is not New Jersey, but come on now. And that was in the late 1990s or mid 1990s. And it's one of those, please do not lie to me. My math at that time was, if they're doing that at a theology school, I have a very difficult time believing that at Rutgers University in the late 1960s, early 1970s, that not one individual on the entire Rutgers University college campus, not one, ever smoked pot. Not one. I mean, I would believe it if she had said there were some people who didn't partake, like at all. However, to say that nobody anywhere at all whatsoever smoked pot. Nobody. I have, to this day, a very difficult time believing that. I would guesstimate there are some people who went to Rutgers University in the late 1960s and early 1970s who could be like, yeah, no, completely did. And so, while I know it was difficult, the irony is, while it was difficult for a lot of people to actually believe me when I said, no, I didn't do this, it's straight-laced, total square, that I am. At the same time, I'm sure at this point, I guesstimate at least there have been, ways of proof in that regard. And so, Anna just absolutely hated me. And this continued throughout my life. So when, I didn't wind up getting into MAST, the Marine and Science Technology School, she rubbed it in my face. And she was like, it was one of those, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. I bet if Patricia tried, she would get into it. It's no problem, it's no big deal. And it's like, yeah, but you're not understanding why I needed to get into MAST. You don't understand, it's not just the aspects of the Marine and Science Technology School. It's a big aspect has to do with the portions in reference to the Naval Academy that is mandatory at that school. And she kept saying that my need to join the United States of America's Armed Forces was just a phase. To the point where when I had actually gotten myself to graduate a semester early, part of the reason why of moving to Illinois from New Jersey was because even St. John Vianney High School was like, yeah, I was going to graduate a year early because of the way I had set up my courses. I was going to have all of my requirements by junior year, by technicalities, and I would have been able to join right on the spot of graduating. So my biological mother, in multitudes of excuses as far as moving, that was another portion where she was like, oh, no, it's just a phase. She's just gonna, she's not really that patriotic. Oh, okay. And so then, when I graduated a year, instead of graduating a year early and graduating a semester early, she blamed me for being patriotic. And it was like, yeah, okay. I think there's a lot worse things to be than patriotic for the United States of America. But I had to argue to get myself emancipated to join the Army branch of the United States of America's Armed Forces. And my biological mother was infuriated. She had told all sorts of people that because I was joining the Army, that I was destroying the family. And it was like, no. You did that all on your own. You have done so many things wrong, Anna. Seriously.
ridiculous about it.
And so those who knew my biological mother in Illinois and my biological sister in Illinois, I would guesstimate that they'd be able to be like, oh, I got some stories to tell in reference to the way Anna and Patricia were whenever bringing me up, and how much disdain and hatred that they had for me over all those years. And then after, the claim that they made as far as moving to the state of Texas to help me with my son and my daughter, which that obviously didn't happen, it was one of those, it is what it is in that regard. And so my biological mother had denied and denounced me well before I had signed the dotted line to be in the United States of America's Armed Forces. After I had gotten myself emancipated to join the United States of America's Armed Forces, the bad-mouthing that occurred was that I was specifically told about was through the roof. And then when, in regards to being in the state of Texas, the denial of my existence to people that she knew, like, for example, my trips every now and then over to their house in San Antonio after they moved in, the majority of their neighbors didn't even know I was their eldest biological daughter. They just thought I was just some random person going over to the house. As far as they knew, Patricia was Mike and Anna's only daughter. And that's not the only time. I mean, for example, when Patricia got married, my biological sister got married to this guy named Zach. He had no idea that I even existed. It wasn't until I demanded to meet the guy that he found out that I'm the eldest. And then I guesstimate, if Zach had no idea, that would mean his entire family had no idea that I'm the eldest. And so, my biological parents, and more specific, my biological mother and my biological sister, had pretty much been, she's the black sheep of the family because, she just had to force herself to graduate early instead of doing 4 years of high school. She just had to be patriotic and go and join the Army branch of the, United States of America's Armed Forces. She just had to be so stubborn to go and do all this stuff. And then even when they were in the state of Texas, which I know they still are, but nonetheless, as far as my biological mother, she refused to acknowledge certain points of fact. And so when in reference to going to Lackland Air Force Base, she absolutely refused to acknowledge I had brought her on post. Especially after the events of 9/11, the MP or the SPs at Lackland Air Force Base would have instantly found me. And again, I had this hair color. I didn't have the tattoos, but I did have this hairstyle and this hair color. I think I would stand out a little bit on a military installation. Probably since they're not allowed to have this hair color, male or female. And so it wouldn't have been difficult for the SPs to find me on Lackland Air Force Base at all, whatsoever. And so had she simply acknowledged me, she wouldn't have gotten in trouble the way she did, of course. And so, that's another example of how much my biological mother absolutely hated me. She absolutely refused to acknowledge my existence. And even at my biological sister's wedding, my biological mother was mad at me for staying. My biological mother had told me well, we only wanted your son to be the ring bearer and your daughter to be the flower girl. We didn't want you to actually stay at Zach and Patricia's wedding. I was like, wow, okay. I mean, I only drove from Carrollton, Texas to Austin, Texas. What did you think I was going to do? And Anna was just, oh, well, you could have just, gone somewhere and then come back. And it's like, really? I don't think so. So my biological mother was just as infuriated as my biological sister, to the point where when they had gone with like the bridal party to go get their eyebrows done and their hair done and their nails done, I was not allowed to go because I was considered an embarrassment to my biological mother and biological sister. Because how dare I show up to my biological sister's wedding that my son was the ring bearer and my daughter was the flower girl after I paid for their outfits. And then it wasn't just my biological sister Patricia who was mad at me for having a gown that was in theme of the bridal or the wedding colors. My biological mother said the exact same thing as my biological sister. Oh, some people are actually going to think you're a part of the wedding party. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Were their words to me. And it's like, okay. And so my biological mother, by the time my biological sister got married to Zach, had already known about me being in the lifestyle. Had already known about the corsetry and the modeling as far as that was concerned, because she had done all of the updates for my laptops. She had done information technology work from the late 70s into the mid 1990s at Prudential in Holmdel, New Jersey. And so she did information technology stuff there. And then when she was in Woodstock at McHenry County Government Center, she had also done information technology for the Sheriff's Department there. And so where I have obviously, like, it is well known, specifically in certain groups like Geek Squad of Best Buy, and probably my bank account because of how many I've had to buy with the accidental insurance, warranty, and then the NSA, and then whatever emails and websites I would go to, like those companies would be able to very much be like, wow, like why does she constantly have a new like computer thingamabob? I would guesstimate there's like some sort of way for the techie guys to be able to tell like which laptop or desktop or whatever. I don't know, obviously. But also like the NSA, and then I guess pretty much like the FBI and stuff like that, being able to be like, why? So Anna, my biological mother, did all of the information technology stuff as far as the updates were concerned. And my biological sister did the stuff as far as my cell phone was concerned. And so during the times when I wasn't speaking with my biological family, the individuals that I was in a relationship with at the time, they did that because I couldn't figure it out. And even now, being on my own and having my own laptop and stuff like that, and cell phones, it's very difficult for me to figure this out. As far as the techie stuff, I don't deny that. And so, where Anna, my biological mother, had done all of those updates and stuff like that. And shortly after she would do updates would be a problem on my laptop. And I would have to take it into Geek Squad. And then I wouldn't get my laptop back. So, in that regard. So, yeah. She knew about me being involved with the BDSM lifestyle, the LGBTQ lifestyle and the swinger lifestyle, because my now dead ex-husband had actually told her about that during the first separation. He had tattletaled on me to my biological parents about me being in the lifestyle before the modeling aspect and before, like, well, obviously his death and the final separation and then his death, obviously, in that regard, but also before being outed by Patrick Kennedy, my ex-boyfriend. And so they knew back in, was it 2004? They knew I was in the BDSM lifestyle. Well before the aspects of my modeling and corsetry stuff. And on top of that, my biological parents would go over to my house. And, you know, because they were as they were, they would go into my closet and ask me about things when I would get back to my house or my rental house in Cedar Park. Like, my biological mother had pulled out a bunch of outfits and she's like, oh, you know, she had brought up how she was in, like, what is it, SCA or something like that at some point in time, Scarborough Fair or something. I was like, I don't know what that is. And she was like, oh, that's what you're wearing corsets for, right? I was like, no. I don't think so. I know what, I know what I wear them for, and it's not some Renaissance fair. I've been to one Renaissance fair, and that went really badly. And I told her about how that particular one went in Smithville, Texas at Bastrop County. And my biological mother said that I was overreacting to 5 guys who jumped out of trees to surround me with weapons. She had told me that, like, it wasn't that big of a deal, and that, you know, that just happened and it is what it is. And it's like, no, I don't think so. Like, at least in the state of Texas, I don't think that's a smart idea. However, you know, whatever, what do I know? Whatever. But yeah, Anna had known about that in specific because I had been tattletaled on by my now dead ex-husband during the first separation. When I had gotten my apartment, that is when he tattletaled on me to my biological parents about me being involved with the BDSM lifestyle. They found out about the LGBTQP aspect the following year because it was towards the end of 2004. So in 2005 is when they found out about the LGBTQP lifestyle. And you know, it was one of those, so when Patrick Kennedy called my biological parents and left the answering machine message to run out the tape, it's one of those, why are you even asking me this? I mean, realistically, like, you knew about this. You asked me about my corsets. You asked me about this. You asked me about this. And then on top of which, you did the, like, updates for my laptops. And so it's not like you didn't see all of the modeling pictures. So, and then, like, the fact that I wouldn't sign out of websites, I'd just leave my laptop in the way that, with that, you know, it's not like you didn't see what website I was on when you took my laptop to go and do a, to do the update thing. So, you know, it's not like you didn't see that. I don't know how, you know. So that's a few extra examples as to how much my biological mother has hated me over all these years, how embarrassed she has been of me all these years, on top of my biological sister's embarrassment of my existence. And I mean, I wasn't allowed to go to my biological sister's dance performances because apparently people in the art community only have natural color hair. There's nobody who dyes their hair because I was told that would be an embarrassment. And then I was also told that, you know, nobody in the art community has tattoos. Like when I started getting tattoos, it's like I have a hard time believing that, similarly to having a hard time believing that in New Jersey at Rutgers University, nobody ever smoked pot in New Jersey in the 1960s and 70s. Nobody. Though she also got involved when it came to like my relationships. If I was actually genuinely happy, my biological mother knew I was genuinely happy, and so anything she could do to destroy how happy I was, she did. And in turn, she would get my biological sister to assist with that, because how dare I want to be happy? How dare I want certain things according to my biological mother and biological sister? And so it just, there are varying levels of family feuding, obviously. That level with them just... And I tried telling people over the years, you know, specifically from 2003 all the way to, you know, essentially when I was no longer in the state of Texas, in regards to 2013, and that whole thing, like I tried explaining, no, my biological family, specifically my biological mother and my biological sister, absolutely hate me. Like, they cannot stand my existence. And my biological sister actually tried to tell me she didn't want me in the state of Texas. And it's like, I was here first. Not only because I was born first, but I was here in the state of Texas before you showed up. I mean, not to like throw a temper tantrum on that, but it's just one of those. I'm just saying. I woke up in the state of Texas after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I was re-raised in the state of Texas. Just saying. You just came to the state of Texas to annoy me and in turn annoy people in the state of Texas. Because I tried warning people. I did. I did everything I could to be like, hey, you know, my biological mother is like just deceivingly ridiculous. She looks normal. She looks, you know, whatever. She knows how to do that sort of, you know, stuff. But don't trust her or my biological sister. I mean, I tried warning them. And then when it came to Patricia, I had actually warned my biological sister. I said, you need to be careful when it comes to marrying into Zach's family. And she was like, you don't need to tell me about anything, because it was when she came over to my house in Carrollton before she ran and left because I showed her lingerie. And it was one of those, I don't know who Zach's family is. I have a feeling you best be telling them the truth. Because if they wind up finding out the truth when you could have told them the truth all along, I don't know who they are, but I have a feeling that I need to give you a warning. And not just you, but like Mike and Anna. Like, you really, 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 really need to be careful with that. And, oh, you don't know anything about Texas. And it's like, oh yeah, I only woke up here. I've only been in different areas of the state. I've only spoken with, you know, pretty much only Texans or only military guys since waking up from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I mean, I've spoken with other people, but like the ratio of Texans and or military guys compared to people who move to the state of Texas and are civilians is like 9.5 in regards to the military and Texans to like the other whatever 0.00 whatever percentage of the ones that moved and have absolutely no military background. But whatever. What did I know? I'm just me. So, then, the irony is I wound up sending my books to my biological father. And now in 2020, I can giggle because I didn't really think about, like, in a full, bigger scale sort of thing in that regard of that warning I had given all those years ago back in 2008 to my biological sister in regards to that. So if knowing how my biological mother was back then, she would have started crying, and then it would have been, Doc, you need to see this, and she's so mean, and blah, 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 where? And then, and this is my math. Again, I don't know the family, like, officially in that regard and that sort of stuff, but they have acreage in Austin, Texas. My math is that is old Texas money. I don't necessarily actually understand what that means. I understand in regards to that is old Texas money, but I don't actually know what that means. By technical, I mean, like, I kind of, like, okay, I should say I know that it exists. Understanding that aspect, I don't understand that particular aspect. But I know enough to be like, okay, so they have acreage inside of Austin limits. My math is that means they are proud Texans. And they probably know what the 151 thing is, as well as the Fiesta thing in San Antonio, in comparison to me. And then the fact that my biological mother and my biological sister took Cactus Jack, also known as Jeffrey Kirkendall Jr.'s side, over me. Yeah, I'll leave that one at that. So you guys have a good one. Make sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official YouTube channel. I am on my way to go pick up my Medal of Honor art project pieces, the two biggest ones of my Medal of Honor art project this far. And so, you guys have a good one.